On this episode of Nerdy Romantics Podcast, we continue our discussion of Supergirl, and we talk a little bit more about the story and pacing of the movie. We talk about the fight scenes and why James Gunn's fight scenes are just a little bit better than the rest. We clear up a little bit of Supergirl comic confusion with an email from Perry, and we give this a star rating, among other things. So if you've seen Supergirl the movie, please take a moment and discuss with us. If not, this is a spoiler alert. That we will continue, as we did in part 1, to spoil the movie Supergirl. So, come back and discuss with us. This is the Nerdy Romantics Podcast, and I'm your host, Y.M. Nelson. But to get back onto the story part, so, even though we did say spoilers, without spoiling it too much, our basic plot here is the Princess Bride. No, I'm kidding. You killed my brother, now you must die. Okay, no, the basic plot here is a revenge plot.
Yeah.
Right? That's our current plot. Right? We're trying to get this bad guy. This bad guy killed some people, right?
Her family.
Killed Ruthie's whole family, basically, and is doing harm to this wonderfully chaotic puppy.
Right?
So we have got to get this guy.
And then we find out that they're truly terrible beings on many other levels, and you're just like, you know what? Yeah, you need to die.
Exactly. You gotta go.
We are all here with you on this revenge plot. Every one of us.
Okay.
Zero redeeming qualities. Zero redeeming qualities. I love it.
That's what we're doing, y'all. So that's it. And we're fighting along the way, right? There's a countdown, there's a clock ticking, so it's ramping up our tension. To say all of that, I'm going to talk about the pacing of this along here with everything. I thought the pacing of this was amazing, right?
Oh my gosh.
I was like, okay, I'm so glad I went to the bathroom before this started, because now I don't want to get up. I need to know the next thing.
For reals.
I need to know the next
so
thing.
real. So real.
Yes. I'm like, oh my God.
There's no chance for you to get up and go to the bathroom.
No, it's not. This movie moves. This movie is going. It's like, as soon as there's like a lull point, that lull point is an emotional point or an informational point that you need.
Yes. Yes.
So you can't miss any of this, y'all. Jen, what did you think about story and pacing? We're already talking about all of this, but
no, I thought it was fantastic. I really thought it was fantastic. I think it's a delicate thing to get right in a superhero movie because, right, we're here for the big action sequences, right? That's what we love to see those. But so much story happens in this movie. So much is... because we've got the flashbacks and we have that whole emotional storyline with what's happening with Kara back when she was a kid, and then as she grows up, and then what's happening with Ruthie, and what is all this other, the betrayal by people you don't expect to betray you and all that kind of stuff. There's so much that happens. So a lot of times after like a big action sequence, there's like some, it's like the flat part of the roller coaster before you kind of jump into the next one. Well, here, don't look away, because even though there's no fight scene or action sequence that's happening on screen, but you better watch it, who is talking, what they are saying, because you are going to miss something really important. And I really appreciate that about just the storytelling process that we were watching in action.
Even the like the titles of where they were, like when they were showing the settings, you need to know where they are, because that plays into
It
things,
does. It
right?
matters. It matters. When they're on that planet with the red sun, oh my gosh. That is a totally different environment, totally different,
Yep.
situation for the characters. And then you get to the other planet and yeah, there's some jumping between planets, so you kind of want to make sure that you stay kind of grounded in where you are so that you know what they're up against and what is expected of Kara and all those kinds of things. But man, so great. The pacing was just fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I will say here that Miller did not agree with me on that. He thought some of the fight scenes were a little bit too long.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love the fight scenes, but then the thing is, if this were not a James Gunn movie, so now I want to go into what we like about James Gunn here, which with the fight scenes. If this were not a James Gunn movie, the fight scenes would not be done the way he does them,
Mm-hmm.
and would not be as action packed, would not be as cinematic as they are. James Gunn has a music element that is cool and that brings an emotion to it.
Yeah.
He has a cinematography element that brings an
Mm-hmm.
emotion to it, and that just brings a coolness to everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, in the beginning, I guess some of it you could say, oh, yeah, I see the CGI in some of it, but I don't know. You really have to look. And then just how these people are interacting with each other in
Mm-hmm.
these action sequences. The fact that Lobo rides in on this motorcycle brings a whole different atmosphere to this action sequence that maybe was on its way downhill. And what I'm specifically talking about is when they're fighting in the city and they're trying to get the brides out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So, yes, y'all, there is a social element here because this Krim guy, who is the big baddie who killed Ruthie, he
Ruthie's family
is.
did not kill Ruthie. He killed Ruthie.
Yeah, I'm sorry, kill Ruthie's family.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, not Ruthie. She's there. She's there. But yeah, no, kill Ruthie's family is also, you know,
He's a
in the middle
trafficker.
of this human trafficking ring.
Yeah.
Right? He's running it. Like,
Yeah.
he's basically running this human trafficking ring. So yeah, this is total revenge, y'all. Total revenge plot. This is a bad guy. He's got to go. But what I was saying about the sequence is there's so many moving parts to that sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's an obvious lull. It goes down like, oh my gosh, we're not going to make it in that sequence. And then Lobo rides in on his motorcycle and wants to bomb everything. Just blow up everything. And I'm trying to get this dude. I don't care what you got going on. I got a bounty. Because he's like a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Basically. So that's how he can be that anti-hero kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't necessarily have this allegiance to good. He has allegiance to money. Like, I want this bad dude because I need this money. Right? But, or whatever he's getting. But, I say all that to say, I didn't feel like the action sequences went on too long. Jen, what are you thinking?
No, I look.
Like, they have this thing
Yeah.
where they don't.
There's storytelling in the action sequence, and that is something that not everybody
Yes.
does. Sometimes action sequences,
Yes.
even short action sequences, they're there to like show off, right? The fact that they have 27 stunt coordinators that are on this movie. And look, those have a place in this world. Don't get me wrong. I will absolutely watch that because I love it when they do great stunts. But in this one, I didn't feel that they went on too long at all. I felt like they did a lot of work. They weren't just fight scenes. They were fight scenes that had some character development, that had some shocking surprises, that had one of the things, for example, in the fight scenes is that, okay, so Ruthie's dad is this weapons maker, right? This old school swords and this kind of thing. And so she's going to go get revenge. And so there's a part of you that's like, oh, I've seen this kid, right, who is shockingly great with a sword because that's how she was raised or whatever. Ruthie's not good. She's not a good fighter. But she is so She is so angry
Yeah,
and
she is.
grieving and and wants revenge so deeply, but when she is faced with the bad guys, she is not a good fighter. And so, you got to pay attention to like some of the what are the little things that are happening amongst this scene, because that tells you so much about Ruthie, but Kara notices that. And that means that she can't just leave this girl on her own to go be successful
Right.
at the revenge plot, right? If you find out that somebody is like the secret ninja character, right, who can fight for themselves and take care of themselves, this is a girl who has lost everything and has that anger, and that makes Kara, feel some kind of way, because Kara lost her family, lost her parents, lost her planet, lost all of her friends, and so she understands that this is a girl who is now at at risk in a way that is very different than
Hmm.
what Kara had to deal with. Kara went to a planet with a yellow sun and was going to be strong, and she could defend herself, and she was capable of things.
Yeah.
But Ruthie isn't, and she can't get off the planet. She can't defend herself, and she is truly alone. And you learn that only if you watch that fight sequence.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And two, with a lot of these fight sequences with so many moving parts going on, you have to pay attention so that you know what's what,
Mm-hmm.
right? You where things are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're talking about character, but yes, you also have to know technically what's going on, because it's like, now how did we blow up all of this? Did you not see in the beginning when this was happening? Or why are they, when they're falling off that ship or whatever that was? Yeah, that moving, yeah, that ship. It was a ship.
Yeah, it was kind of like a bus.
Whatever.
It was kind of like public transportation,
Right.
but in a space.
Right. But in space,
Mm-hmm.
right. When all of that's going on, it's like you have to know exactly what's happening, because there's a little trickery going on there. There's a little direction going on there. And the misdirection is for the characters because they're trying to one up the
Mm-hmm.
people that are rating that whatever. But it can also be misdirection for you. And then too, there's funny stuff going on that can take your attention away from stuff. It's so much going on. It's so rich there.
Every
And
single,
every
yeah.
scene is like that. Every fight scene is like
Mm-hmm.
that, in my opinion. This is not just a car chase around London where we just see people in the streets and
Mm-hmm.
cars going around, and then we see a truck and we almost hit it but we miss it, and
Mm-hmm.
part of our bumper falls off, and that is the highlight of the whole thing, is part of our bumper falls off, or our car gets riddled with bullets but magically we don't get hit at all.
Mm-hmm.
This is not that, right? This is story that's being told in action, characters being developed in action, like
Mm-hmm.
Jen was saying. And I found that, to me, it was paced very well,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know. So at this juncture, because we've been talking about this for a while, we're going to go into star ratings. But right before we go into star ratings, we'll hear from Virtual Perry. Let's see what I also asked him. Okay. We talked about why the origin story was different. I also asked him, as a piggyback onto that question, um, is this because we know that the CW Arrowverse Supergirl is from Crisis of Infinite Earths?
Okay.
I asked him because I heard that this movie drew on the Woman from Tomorrow series.
Okay.
And so I asked him about it just to make sure. And I said, does this movie draw on the Woman of Tomorrow series? I thought I saw somewhere that James Gunn used that series to come up with this movie. So the inspiration of this movie. And he said, yep, the basic plot comes directly from Woman of Tomorrow. It's not a one-to-one adaptation, and they leave a lot of stuff out because evidently Woman of Tomorrow is a dense comic book read.
Yeah.
Y'all know we don't read comics here, but we appreciate comics, and I look at comics as canon, which is why I always ask about them. But it is essentially the same story.
Okay.
So this is not from Crisis of Infinite Earths, and while we see that it's different, it's actually from a version of Supergirl comics, the line called Woman of Tomorrow. And I think he also said about Woman of Tomorrow, as far as I can remember, Woman of Tomorrow never discussed her origin.
Okay.
It was a modern day story, so her origin wasn't needed. Most of the book, that book informs the overall story for the character.
Okay.
It had no influence on the Arrowverse as it came out long after the Supergirl series launched. Okay. So that's why it seems so different, right? Because it freaking is, y'all. In fact, I think it came out when Supergirl was in its final seasons. Woman of Tomorrow also wasn't a whole line of comics. It was just one limited series. Mm-hmm. So this series that James Gunn is drawing from was not even around when the CW Arrowverse Supergirl was
interesting.
on.
Okay.
So that's what he's saying, or that's what he thinks. He says, in fact, I think it came out when Supergirl was in its final seasons.
Oh, okay. I can.
So this version is a different version, y'all. And as comic book readers, y'all are probably like, duh, but then y'all are probably also not nerdy romantics. Y'all probably just listening to us babble. So there you go. And now, because I think I've said everything that I asked him about it, we're going to talk ratings.
Okay.
So since we talked a lot about what we loved about this, before we talk ratings, was there anything that you wanted to say that you wish wasn't here or wish was here? Or anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about?
I feel like I've talked so much about this.
We have.
And I've made my opinion, pretty well known. I'm not, I felt like we covered so much.
Everything.
And in terms of what's missing, there's not a lot missing. Like I said, this movie has so much in it that pulls on your heartstrings, that makes you empathize with both Ruthie and Kara, that makes you, Kara is, she's a young girl, 20, whatever they say, 21, 22 is her age, because it's her birthday. And
right.
But she's still, but that's young. That's a person who's been on her own for a long time and just doesn't know her place in the world. And you see this person who is in the midst of a very deep depression, and the way that she is treating herself and the way that she treats people around her. And the only thing that she has that brings her joy is her dog. And so, it's hard to watch when somebody is in a depressive state like that. And I thought that was so real and so true and it's played, it's not thrown in your face at all. It's not let's have a whole conversation about depression or anything. There's not it doesn't have that feeling. It could turn into an after school special. You know what I mean?
Right.
It could be moral, let's talk about the morality, or let's learn a lesson from this, right? And sometimes movies head in that direction, but I think that this movie did such a fabulous job of including all of that story without making it feel like we want you to learn a lesson, or that we want you to, whatever. It's that we want you to have a fun time at the movies. But that fun time is more fun because of the great story that we're going to tell you. And so I feel like there wasn't anything missing.
So based on all that, what is your rating for this? So let's remind our listeners what our rating system is. It is a 5-star rating. And 1 star is we didn't like it. 2 stars, it was okay. 3 stars, we liked it. 4 stars, we really liked it. And 5 stars, it was amazing. And you can rate in between.
Okay.
So,
I'm
what
five
did you
stars.
think?
I'm 5 stars on this
Yeah.
one. You know, I think that there were, that Millie Alcott just really impressed me completely. The writing was great. The action was great. You know, it's everything I wanted in a superhero movie. Absolutely everything I wanted in a superhero movie. So,
Awesome.
mhm.
Okay. Perry's rating, he said, I think I'll go with a 3.75. There were some big pacing issues with it.
Mhm.
I didn't see that, but
It's all right. He
it
can
would
be
be
wrong.
nice
It's
to
fine.
know what.
I'm
I
kidding,
hope Perry.
Carrie. I'm
I
kidding,
hope Perry
Carrie. You're
watches
great.
this. Yes. Oh God, Perry, if you're just listening and you didn't see that, she gave you a heart. Okay. He said there were some big pacing issues with it, and as I said, I prefer the 2000s origin. So
Okay.
yeah. The origin story that we saw, there was a section there in the middle where we saw backstory, where we saw the origin. So he said he prefers the 2000s origin, but he thought that Alcock and Momoa were excellent and
Mhm.
carried the film.
Yeah.
So
True.
at least he's sort of
Mm.
right now.
Yeah.
But yes, and he said more so about the 2000 version. Personally, he wished they would have gone with the more modern version of that origin story because he thinks that it adds a very interesting dimension to her dynamic with Clark. And I say that because I'm giving it a 4.5 stars on this.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm not going with the 5 stars is because I didn't like her dynamic with Clark.
Mhm.
There was something about her dynamic with Clark that I don't know, kind of got on my
Mhm.
nerves, and that I can't. That's the only thing I can kind of say.
No, I get
You
it.
know, it was jarring or
Mhm.
something to me.
She's very
In a
dismissive of him, and he's just, he's trying to
yeah,
wish her a happy birthday, and she just like she just keeps rolling her eyes at him or shutting him down or ignoring it, and yeah, yeah. No, I get it.
yeah,
I do.
it's weird. And yes, I know her origin or her memories of Krypton
Mhm.
and everything that happened are a lot more developed and a lot more steeped in loss,
Mhm.
a lot more steeped in grief than his,
Mhm.
right? Even though he does have a sense of loss, he does have a sense of there's something missing,
Mhm.
but he was not there when the planet does what it does.
Yeah.
He did
He was
not
a baby.
see the radiation, right?
Yeah.
He's gone to Earth as a baby.
Yeah.
So he didn't get all of that. And also with Superman, the negative things that he's experiencing are negative things that have to do with Earth,
Right.
right?
Right.
So he has a whole different version
Yeah.
of and a softer version. Although you're not you don't really quantify grief, you don't really quantify
Mhm.
loss, you don't really quantify um negative feelings
Yeah.
or being an outsider or
Yeah.
found family or whatever. You can't quantify that because you're not in people's head. But there's something very visceral that's going on with Kara, and you would think that the only other Kryptonian out there, you would think that they would have a little more rapport because as we know from the very beginning of this, this is not like they're just now meeting. This is not they're just starting to be whatever, right? They know each other, they met each other, they've already gone through all of that by
Mhm.
this point in the movie. And there are parts that I feel like instead of as a cousin, he kind of talks to her like a dad a little bit, or like an older brother who's
Yeah.
like listen, you're embarrassing me
Mm.
a little bit. And then she's being an embarrassment a little bit, right? Like she's being dismissive and I'm going to do what I want to do, blah, blah, whatever. It's just weird. I
Yeah.
don't know. That whole dynamic between them in this particular movie is weird. And that's the only thing that kind of threw me off
Mm-hmm.
because I'm thinking, where do they go from here? And two, this kind of goes back a little bit to what you were saying
Mm-hmm.
earlier about you don't have to know anything about any other movie to understand this movie.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you did watch Superman,
Mm-hmm.
and if you do understand that there could be some continuity between all of these things, that you kind of wonder, where is this going after this?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously Superman is going to be somewhere in the mix in whatever the next movie is or whatever happens, and Supergirl is kind of building to be in there too.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, whatever the next iterations are.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't look too far into this, even though I look farther than some of my guest hosts. But you kind of wonder, like, where is this building
Yeah.
to? Even though this is not that continuity that we know from Marvel, this is DC. It's a totally different thing. But it is a DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some kind of connection,
Oh, yeah.
obviously. So you're kind of wondering, well, how are they going to move on? Is this weirdness going to continue? Are they going to, how is this going to come together? What's going to happen?
So you didn't feel like they resolved it at the end when she came to him and said that that she wanted to spend more time on the planet? You don't feel like that was a resolution for
I
that?
think that's like, I don't think it's a resolution. I think it's a start.
Okay.
Like it's like a beginning of
Yeah.
what we might see happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But they got a weird dynamic going on for most of the movie. Like this is just starting to be like something.
Well,
But
because I read that totally
then
different.
again, yeah.
Yeah. I saw that relationship completely differently. I saw it as her being extremely depressed because everybody that she has known on Krypton is gone. Everybody dies. Everybody dies and she has nothing to anchor her in on Earth or anywhere else. She has no anchor, she has no parents, she has no, she doesn't have any even real happy memories to like anchor her the way that other people have. Everything is loss and pain to her. And that's why she doesn't have friends. She doesn't have, she doesn't want to help. She doesn't even want to be friends with Clark because, he is such a kind presence that it's like she doesn't even know what to do with that because she is in so much pain herself and so desperately depressed and just completely overcome with the grief of it all and how much that she has lost. So that's how I see her at the beginning, and that she goes kind of through this process because Ruthie calls her out on a lot of her behaviors, and at the end she realizes that maybe having people in her life would actually be a good thing, and so that's where I feel like she needed to kind of get through. She needed to kind of start processing her grief in order for her and Clark to have a relationship. And he's there trying to be the good guy, but she hadn't processed that grief, and so there was just nothing could be done until she starts processing that grief. So that's how I saw their relationship. And so when she tells him at the end that she's like she wants to stay on Earth and basically build a life, like that's a gigantic step for her to be able to do that. And that Clark is so accepting and doesn't require her to, he doesn't require her to apologize. He doesn't require her to, atone for the times that she was dismissive and cut him out of her life. I think that he would just recognize that she was in too much pain to have people near her. So that's how I read that relationship. And maybe I'm reading more into it than was on screen.
I think that's an interesting take on it. And I think that their dynamic is going to pull different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see, but I can see that. I can see that maybe because she's in so much pain, she can't accept anything that he's giving
Mm-hmm.
her feeling
Mm-hmm.
wise. And until she goes through this thing with Ruthie, then she can start accepting whatever he's giving.
Yeah.
Versus they're just, but I guess the way that I looked at it is she is just, they just, I don't know, butting heads.
Yeah.
It's just a butting heads kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also thought maybe she was, by her dismissiveness and stuff, she was resentful of him because, a little bit, because she had to go through some of that stuff that because she went through all the stuff on Krypton, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
He, you know,
Oh
he
yeah.
got to be on this yellow sun planet
Yeah.
and hang out, and he still has two parents.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
he has spare parents, right? Because he still has his other parents that are in the Fortress of Solitude, right? Their presence is still there,
and the robots. Don't forget the robots. He's got Barry and the other guys.
Oh my gosh,
I know.
y'all.
And so, and you know, they don't really get into it or ever like talk about this stuff. But he's got all those people he went to high school with. He's got a job and he's working and stuff. So, you know, I feel like Kara as a person who is extremely depressed, like has severe depression, and the way that she's portrayed, because a lot of times people think, oh, people that are depressed just sleep a lot or stay in bed, but they also just cut themselves off from the world, and they cut themselves off from people.
She's definitely, to me, again, y'all, disclaimer, I am not a psychologist. I only had one class of psychology in undergrad, so take this with what you will. But to me, she is textbook clinical depression. Textbook. Like through and through.
Yeah.
And a lot of her behaviors, the acting out kind of behaviors and the unruly kind of behaviors, are how people with depression who don't know the right way to channel it, that's how they channel it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Again, disclaimer, I am not a psychologist.
Also not a psychologist, but having known some folks that this is something that they have dealt with, not the grief part, but just the depression part, is that there are a few things more annoying to someone who is in the depths of severe depression than somebody who is positive and kind and, okay, well, I'm here if you need anything. I hope you're doing great. And they, you know, but at the same time, they need that person, you know, to have some sort of, you know, some sort of like connection. They need those people who don't give up on them. And that's one of the things I love about Clark, is that he's never going to give up on her. And if you did see the Superman movie, one of the things that felt kind of off to me in the Superman movie is when Krypto is kidnapped. Superman goes absolutely nuts trying to get that dog back, and is so, like, obviously he tries to save everybody. He goes through a lot of stuff, but the anger on his face, the absolute no, nothing will happen to this dog. And at the time I was like, that's kind of an odd reaction for him to have to this dog. Like, I mean, this very annoying dog, and it's, you know, and it's Supergirl, it's his cousin's dog and all that. Like, there's a whole and he says a couple of times, there's a whole story there. You know, I don't want to get into it. I'm dog sitting. I just don't want to get into it, right? And he kind of like brushes it off all the time. But man, his reaction was stronger than like his reaction to everything else that was attacking him and everything that was happening in the Superman movie. Well, now we know why. He understands what that dog means to Kara and how important it is for her mental health to have that dog, and what it would do to her to lose that dog. And he doesn't want to lose her. And so whatever feelings he has about the dog, he understands that this dog is her, like, is something that is keeping Kara somewhat grounded. It's giving her a reason to live. And I think that he's so well tuned into that. So every time I see him pop up on the screen, with his little video call or whatever, and he's like, okay, I'm checking on you. Hey, I called you a couple times, reaching out. Hey, I know it's your birthday. And, all that.
Yeah, right.
And that just felt, when you get to the end of the movie, I'm like, oh, I get it now. I see what was happening in his movie. I see what was happening every single time that he popped up, and just who he was to her and what he was trying to be to her. And it just made me love him more.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Millard was definitely annoyed by him. I didn't make the connection until you just said it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make the connection until you just said it. I still feel like they're dynamic, and I'm going to stay with that because that's how I felt up at the time. And it's still weird, but to me, opening up, but now I see why it's opening up, and I see why that transformation is happening at the end.
Yeah.
But so that's the 4.5, and so we'll stay with that because that was true to how I felt at the time. And the whole reason for the 4.5, but the 4.5 itself, because I thought this movie was just a really good superhero movie.
So good.
It has the action that we need. It has a simple story that we can follow. We don't have to know everything about every character that ever lived in DC Comics. We don't even have to know everything about Supergirl, which we don't. Right? And what we came into it with was actually not this line of comics even. So it was a little bit different version. Similar because it is the same character, but variation. But the thing about it is that this is just a good movie.
It's just a good movie.
You know? It's just a good movie. And icing, Lobo. Yeah. Okay. Lobo and a cute dog. And on that note, we will close this discussion about Supergirl. Jen, I'm so glad you came on to talk about Supergirl with me. This was hilarious. And y'all, if y'all can't see it, if you're just listening to the audio, I have on my Superman, Supergirl shirt. And Jen also has on her Supergirl shirt. So actually, it's a trio. Is that Batwoman or Batgirl? Are we saying that's Batwoman or Batgirl?
Ooh, I think that's Batgirl.
Okay, Batgirl.
I don't know.
That's
Wonder Woman. I bought the shirt. Honestly, I bought the shirt for Wonder Woman.
For Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Hey, that's why we always do it. And again, that's as far as DC goes. To me, Wonder Woman is who I grew up with.
Yeah.
You know, I cosplayed her for Halloween once.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
I'm all the way with you on the Wonder Woman thing. You know.
Yeah. But now I'm really loving Supergirl, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
Me too.
So,
me too.
Y'all, the next movie that we see Supergirl in, y'all know we're going to have something to say about it.
Always.
So, you know, and hopefully, Jen, I will have you on to say these things with. Okay.
Try to stop me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, I had a blast, hon. I had a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi. Want to get show notes from this and future episodes in your inbox? Then subscribe to Nerdy Romantics newsletter at nerdyromanticspodcast.com/subscribe. Nerdy Romantics newsletter not only has show notes, but nerdy and romantic recs, and sneak peeks and exclusives of my spicy, nerdy romances and love stories. I love talking sci-fi, superheroes, fantasy, and romance books, movies, and shows with my friends. So share this podcast with your nerdy romantic friends. Thanks for listening and for watching.